Hi everybody. Welcome to our channel, The Scary Tales. Our scary and horror stories are designed to send chills down your spine. Enjoy the spine-tingling stories thrill. Here's your horror stories about haunted library. 1. The Misplaced Book. In the heart of a small town sat a library that had been standing for over 2 centuries. Many locals whispered that the West Wing, with its Gothic architecture and dusty bookshelves, was haunted. Only the bravest ventured there, searching for lost tomes or old records. One evening, Sarah, a new librarian, was tasked with sorting a misplaced book back to its shelf in the West Wing. The book was old and tattered, titled Stories Never to be Read. Feeling a bit daring, she decided to flip the book open. The pages turned to a story titled, Sarah's Last Night. Reading about herself, the story detailed how she'd hear footsteps behind her, see shadows move from the corners of her eyes, and hear faint whispering in her ear, getting louder and louder. Dismissing it as a prank, she placed the book back and tried to leave, but the large wooden doors wouldn't budge. Throughout the night, everything written in the story came true. The sun rose, the doors unlocked, and Sarah ran out, never to return to the library. The book was never found again. 2. The Silent Librarian. A new librarian named Anna started working at a modern library in the city. On her first day, she was warned to never disturb the silent librarian in the basement. Thinking it was some sort of initiation joke, Anna decided to venture downstairs on her lunch break. What she found was an old woman, endlessly cataloging books with an intensity Anna had never seen. The woman didn't look up or acknowledge Anna. Curiosity getting the better of her, Anna tried to strike up a conversation. No response. Finally, she tapped the woman's shoulder. In that instant, the entire library plunged into darkness, and a chilling scream echoed. When the lights returned, the woman was gone, but Anna's voice was forever taken. She could never speak again and became the new, silent librarian. 3. The library's last checkout. Every town has legends, but the one about the Redwood Library was the most chilling. It was said that every 50 years, a person could check out a book that grants them immense knowledge but at a terrible price. Lucas, an ambitious scholar, had been researching this legend for years. He pinpointed the exact date the book would be available and arrived at the library that fateful evening. To his surprise, the mysterious book was waiting for him on the front counter. It had no title but felt warm to the touch. As he began to read, he could feel knowledge pouring into him. But with every page turned, he aged a year. By the time the morning sun streamed through the windows, an old man sat in Lucas's place, surrounded by a lifetime of knowledge but with no time left to use it. The book vanished, waiting for its next reader in another 50 years. 4. The Forever Loan. In a quaint town, the local library stood out not for its architecture, but for a legend about the Forever Loan. It was whispered that there was a specific book, without a title, which once borrowed, would never allow the reader to leave the library. Sophie, an investigative journalist, dismissed this as urban legend. Determined to debunk it, she went to the library, found the unnamed book, and signed it out. As she tried to leave, an invisible force barricaded the exit. The clock seemed to move faster inside the library. Days turned into nights and back into days in mere minutes. Desperate, Sophie tried returning the book, but it would always reappear beside her. Eventually, she realized that her only escape was to convince another to borrow the book. After what felt like years, a young boy picked up the book, and Sophie finally walked free, leaving behind another prisoner of the Forever Loan. 5. The Librarian's Secret. The oldest librarian at Blackwood Library, Mrs. Mallory, had a peculiar habit. She never allowed anyone into the library's basement. Rumors floated that she kept a monstrous secret there. One night, a group of teenagers decided to sneak in after hours. They found a trapdoor leading to the basement and, to their horror, discovered a vast, underground chamber filled with shelves upon shelves of glass jars. Each jar contained a glowing essence. One of the teens, out of curiosity, opened a jar. The essence flew out, circled him, and vanished. Immediately, his memories, thoughts, and very essence were wiped clean. The jars, they realized, contained the souls of past readers. In the corner, they saw Mrs. Mallory, trapped in a large glass container, her eyes pleading for release. The real Mrs. Mallory had been imprisoned for decades, and the one above was the entity responsible, collecting souls for its own insatiable hunger. 6. The Phantom Pages. Carter loved collecting rare books. One day, he came across a unique volume in the library's restricted section called The Phantom Pages. Despite multiple warnings from the old librarian, Carter borrowed the book. At midnight, he began reading. The pages seemed normal until he reached the center. The words began to blur, and ghostly figures started emerging from the pages. They whispered tales of sorrow, torment, and betrayal. Frightened, Carter tried to close the book, but it wouldn't shut. The phantoms began pulling him into the pages. By morning, the book lay closed on Carter's desk. When opened, a new ghostly figure could be seen, forever trapped in the phantom pages, warning the next reader of the book's cursed nature. 7. The reshelving haunt. Every library has its quirks, but the old Linsdale Library was particularly odd. Books reshelved themselves. For years, librarians would close up at night, only to find books moved to different locations by morning. They joked about a reshelving ghost. One night, Emma, a young librarian, decided to stay overnight to catch the mischievous spirit in action. Hidden behind a reading nook, she watched as a translucent figure of a man, looking distressed, roamed the aisles, picking up books and moving them around. Curious, Emma approached him. He looked at her with sad eyes and whispered, "I can't find it." Emma realized he was a spirit searching for a specific book. She asked him its title, and with great difficulty, he replied, "My unfinished tale." The next day, Emma began an exhaustive search and finally found a manuscript hidden behind old tomes. It was an unfinished story by a local writer who had disappeared mysteriously years ago. Emma decided to finish the story, and as she penned the last word, she felt a cold breeze and a soft whisper, "Thank you." From that day on, books never moved on their own at Linsdale Library. 8. The unspoken agreement. Misthaven Library was never silent. Whispers floated throughout, even when no one was around. New visitors often found this unsettling, but regulars called it the unspoken agreement. Decades ago, a fire had engulfed the library. The librarian at the time, Ms. Eleanor, made a pact with the spirits of the knowledge realm she'd offer her soul in exchange for saving the library and its contents. The spirits agreed. The fire mysteriously extinguished, but Ms. Eleanor was never seen again. In her honor, the spirits remained, guarding the books and whispering knowledge to those who seek it. They became protectors and guides, ensuring that every reader found the information they were searching for. 9. The Catalogue of Shadows. In the forbidden section of Hollowbrook Library, there was a catalogue unlike any other. Its pages were not made of paper but of shadows. Ethan, driven by curiosity, reached out to touch it. Upon contact, he was transported to a dimension filled with all the world's forgotten stories. There, he met souls trapped between the lines, their lives erased from history. They pleaded with Ethan to share their stories and give them acknowledgement so they could be set free. When Ethan returned to the real world, he was filled with tales of love, war, sacrifice, and betrayal. He took it upon himself to document every story, giving voice to the forgotten souls. Each time he wrote a story down, a shadow would lift from the catalogue. By the end, the catalogue was an ordinary book, and the souls were free, their stories living on in the hearts of readers. 10. The Diary of Lost Words. Amelia, a college student, chanced upon a worn-out diary in the dusty corners of her university library. Each page seemed to shimmer, and the words danced as if alive. But what was stranger, the diary seemed to contain personal memories of every person who read it. As Amelia read the diary, she found herself immersed in moments she had forgotten, her childhood friend whom she'd lost touch with, her grandmother's lullabies, and even the scent of her old home. But as she neared the diary's end, the memories became darker moments of regret, heartbreak, and loss. Drawn into its pages, Amelia felt an urge to add her own memories. With each word she wrote, a piece of her essence got absorbed into the diary. By the time her friends found her, she was lost in a trance, a part of the diary forever. The Diary of Lost Words continued to lure readers, collecting fragments of memories from anyone who dared to pen down their story. 11. Echoes of the Reading Room. The Eldergrove Library had a reading room that no one ever used. It was said that those who entered never experienced silence. Instead, they'd hear the echoing whispers of every reader who'd ever been there. One day, Clara, an author struggling with writer's block, decided to visit the haunted reading room. She hoped to find inspiration from the echoes of the past. As she sat, the room filled with the overlapping whispers of hundreds of readers, each sharing their thoughts, dreams, and emotions. The room's energy was overwhelming, and yet Clara began to type. Her story became a culmination of all the voices in the room, an intertwined tale of multiple lifetimes. The novel, when published, was hailed as a masterpiece. But Clara never wrote again. It was as if the reading room had taken all her creative energy, leaving her an empty vessel. 12. The Silence Keeper. Ravenwood Library was special. It was the quietest place on earth, thanks to a statue called the Silence Keeper. Legend had it that the statue absorbed all noise, making the library a haven for readers. Derek, a sound engineer, was intrigued. He wanted to record the sound of silence from Ravenwood for an experimental project. As he placed his equipment near the statue, he felt an odd vibration. Ignoring it, he began his recording. But instead of silence, he heard faint cries, as if thousands were screaming for release. The statue pulsed more violently. Realization hit Derek: the statue didn't just absorb noise, it trapped the very essence of sound. All the conversations, whispers, and even heartbeats over the years were imprisoned inside, yearning for freedom. In an act of compassion, Derek decided to release the trapped sounds. But as he did, an overwhelming cacophony erupted, driving everyone away from the library. From that day on, Ravenwood Library was the loudest place on Earth, and the Silence Keeper was removed, never to entrap another sound again. The end.